students show what they know for sure this spring. Like I said, Dr. Horn is the 612 Director of Ed Service, and he will be taking us through our slides tonight. So James, if you want to go ahead and start, it is all yours, and I'll monitor the questions.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you right now. All right, so everybody should be looking at the IAR Parent Night, a deeper dive into IAR. Sarah, can you give me a thumbs up if that's what you see?
Yep, if you want to hit slideshow, it'll project a little bit bigger for them.
All right. Okay. All right.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you all so much. Let me just take care of this on my end. Okay, so here is our agenda for the evening. First is to review the purpose of the test. I want to make sure that everybody understands what we mean by the IAR, why it's important, and why our students are doing it. Want to let you know what the key dates are, as well as some makeup dates. And then what I want to do is really take a few minutes here and go into some sample test questions. The best work that is happening happens from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, and the learning experience happening within the walls of your student's classroom. So what's getting your student ready. However, it is a standardized test, and for some of our parents of younger students down the third, fourth, fifth grade, this may be the first time you've come across this type of thinking that's being asked of your students. I also want to make sure that you have resources moving forward and that you have access to the IAR portal. That is through the Illinois State Board of Education, and that's a publicly accessible thing. So this is not anything you have to have a subscription for. It is, you're able to get to it, but I want to make sure that you have that link for it, and I'll walk you through how to do it. Dr. Mom was gracious enough to post her phone number. Just want to make sure everyone has that there. We are happy to answer any questions that you have, and just to keep it organized for the purpose of this presentation, we are asking that you text Sarah those questions throughout the presentation. Okay, so first, let's start with our why. Why is it that we are taking the IAR? The Illinois Assessment of Readiness means just that. We are asking students, and by we, schools, the state of Illinois, are asking students to engage in this assessment to check to see where they are on grade level compared to their peers. This is something that's reported to the state, and the state takes a look to see how all schools are doing. And what that allows district officials, administration, school boards, is to really take a look at how the overall system is happening at Kaneland. Based on that information, we do take things into consideration about how our students are doing, where they're excelling, where we're noticing opportunities for improvement. And from there, we are developing professional development for our staff so that they can have better information to work more purposely with our students. So the test logistics, the test will occur after spring break. That is a change from some of the older students, the parents who've been through this before. Historically, we've done this before spring break. The test has been pushed back to after spring break. So that will be the 8th through the 18th. There is a window of time that students will be taking it. The test is not taken over one long day. It is broken out. It's just to help with student engagement on that, because it is a long period of time, particularly for some of our younger students, looking at the length of time for our ELA test compared to our math test. Okay, so how to prepare for the test? Really, it's focus on what's happening within the classroom. Like I said earlier, that is the most important experience for your students. I did link in there practice questions on the Illinois State Board of Education website. I'm going to walk you through that, and we will post this website, the slideshow so that you all have access to that. And then in a moment here, I'm going to walk through a couple of test questions at a couple of different grade levels. And then some of those good old-fashioned, just good test-taking strategies. Make sure you get a good night's rest beforehand and have a healthy breakfast the day of the test. All right, so what I have here is a sample 5th grade ELA question. It is a reading passage. So what I'll do is just read this out to you, and then we'll go through what the answer is. Lily skipped down the path, her red boots crunching on fallen leaves. The old oak tree, with its gnarled branches reaching like arms, stood sentinel at the edge of the woods. Today was the day. She was finally going to find the hidden waterfall her grandfather had told her about. It sparkles like 1,000 diamonds, he had said, his eyes twinkling. She clutched the worn map in her hand, its edges frayed from countless adventures. Suddenly, a rustling sound startled her. Small rabbits, its nose twitching, hopped out from behind the bush. Lily grinned. Just you? She whispered, and continued on her quest. Now, what you will find in many of the questions, it's not just regurgitation. The test is not just looking that you remember key facts, but rather that you've understood the passage and the themes behind it. So students will come across questions such as the one following. Which of the following statements best describes Lily's feelings at the beginning of the story? And looking at the correct answer is B, and it points out 4 options, but asks only for the one that's the best accurate in the reflections of Lily's feelings as depicted in the passage. It asks that students do things like look for supporting details within their reading, and that they are thinking critically about the other questions and looking to see that those do not provide the overall description of whatever it is that the question is asking. Let's jump up a grade level to 6th grade. I am going to actually just allow you to read that one. It felt a little weird reading to you. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to look through that on your own. And if you just wrap up that reading in just a few seconds here, please. Similar to the other question that was asked, this requires the students think and reflect on the reading passage as it was presented. Which of the following statements accurately reflects Maya's feelings or experiences in the excerpts? This one is asking that they select 2 of the correct answers. That is something that is different from many multiple choice questions. Oftentimes on a lot of assessments, you just would be given the options of A, B, C, or D. This gives you 5 options and then asks that you select the 2. In this case, the correct answer is B or C. How to support your student. Anytime you can read, particularly at the younger levels, and engage students in careful and active reading, looking at key details in there, not just the surface level of knowing what happened, but the why about how things happen, how, and in particularly where in the text the student is seeing and making connections from that. Focus on direct evidence. What is it that is explicitly said within the reading passage and why it makes the students think or understand the text as it does. Also, whenever possible, encourage test-taking strategies. Start with the questions that are incorrect and encouraging students to go through and eliminate the incorrect answers. Make sure that students understand question stems, to reflect, to support, to imply. And then whenever possible, practice with a variety of texts. It's great if your student has one series that they're reading and that's what they're engaged in. Going into the text or into this assessment, providing different texts for them to be reading, sometimes short excerpts, and thinking critically about the reading that's in front of them. All right, let's shift over to 7th grade math. In math, you will see arithmetic-based questions where they're working specifically with numbers, but you're also going to see students engaging critically with word problems and having to look at what's being asked as it's presented to them in sentence form. So for this particular example, similar to what we saw in ELA, it's asking for the students not only to do the arithmetic and come up with the correct answer, but be able to explain it. This type of thinking is modeled in classrooms on a daily basis where students are being asked by their teachers to explain why they're doing the math the way they are and to provide answers. Where it's a little bit different here because it is a standardized test for 60 minutes. It's for a lot of our students is a new experience. This is not something that is foreign to them. They have done this before. So just getting students to slow down, read the statements in front of them, think critically about their own knowledge and be able to select the option that is correct based on the explanation. So option C here was correct because it multiplies the average number of books read by each student by the total number of students to get the total number of books read. So how to prepare for word problems. Practice word problems. Regularly work on word problems that involve mean, percentages, or other related concepts in relations to the 7th grade concept. Encourage your child to break down word problems into smaller, manageable steps. Have them explain their reasoning out loud. The test is not just testing your ability to do mathematics, but your ability to understand the math and the thinking that goes into it. So focus on understanding, not just memorization. At the conclusion of this presentation, I'm going to go through the parent portal as well as practice problems. So you don't have to be pulling these from thin air. Practice problems are available and you're able to access those. Also, just simple Google searches will present many other opportunities for you to work at particular grade level for your student. Okay, so learner support at home. I did mention the parent portal, so I'm gonna go ahead and open that up here. That does take you to the Illinois State Board of Education. As somebody who spends a lot of time working with stuff on this website, I can tell you from my perspective, sometimes it is overwhelming, but it is okay. Use this link. Scroll down to the parent and teacher resources. And from there, you're able to get onto a variety of links that will help guide you in everything from getting your student ready for the assessment. Also, when the reports come back to you in a couple of months, it does take the state a little bit of time for them to get that information back to us, but you will get a report of how your student did, and you can have better, more informed conversations with your student's teacher or teachers in the future about the needs of your student, particularly if they are struggling or performing under grade level, or on the other end, if they are performing above grade level and you're looking for some enhancement opportunities. The practice problems that I did reference are available through the state, and it is very accessible. You're able to go ELA, which is English Language Arts. It's reading, writing, grammar, all of those, broken down by grade level. So if you're a 3rd grade person, you're able to get it with text-to-speech. You're able to do computer-based. If you're a paper-based person, you are able to open up a PDF that will just walk you through and, in fact, The samples that I pulled did come directly from this website. So very user-friendly, very accessible. Do highly encourage that you spend a few moments walking through through those resources with your students. And then just to echo what I said earlier, some of those good old-fashioned test-taking strategies, make sure you're getting a good night's sleep, you're getting a healthy breakfast in the morning, and then just really encouraging, celebrating what your student knows, and just doing really well on this test. Okay, that does conclude the presentation that we have together. We do have a feedback survey for you. We will put this up in the chat so that you have access to that. I'll stop sharing that. And if you haven't done so already, can you please make sure that you've texted Dr. Mom any questions that you have?
So far, we just have three questions. The first one is the dates of the actual assessment. We will be going on spring break at the end of next week, and then we will have that first week of April off, and the students return on April 8th. And for most schools, on April 8th is kind of a back to school IAR kind of refresher and kickoff assembly, some work with your teachers to get refreshed and kind of back in the swing of things. And then Kaneland is officially kicking off IAR testing on April 9th. And so your students will start that test if they're in third through eighth grade on April 9th. And they're going to conclude with some makeup test on April 17th and 18th. That's not to say that all of those dates are testing dates. It just depends what grade level you are in. Which dates. Some grades take more tests than others, but anywhere from April 9th to April 17th are the testing dates. Another question that came through, when will those results come in and be released? Typically, the scores are released for initial review by district only in the summer, just as an assessment correction to make sure the right students are linked to the right schools and linked to the right school district. And then they formally get released typically around the last week of October. And so we don't get them until later fall. They are rearranging the scores a bit at the state level, so it probably is going to be around that same time frame again this next fall. And then another question was the Illinois Science Assessment. Is that taken during that same time frame or later in the spring? And we are going to take that around the same time frame, but we do have a little bit longer time frame to take that. We can take that test all the way up through April 30th, but we are going to try to do it within that same, somewhere between the 9th and the 17th, so that we can kind of get back into the regular routine of learning. But you might see some of the science assessment for 5th and 8th grade being taken the week that you come back from Easter. If there's any makeup test, we can do that week of April 21st, 22nd, or 23rd and still be in the time frame. Let's see. Will the results be released through the ISBE or through Kaneland this summer? The results will be released to the district in the summer, but the final results will be released to the parents through Kaneland School District. You will get a paper version of it sent home, and we will send out emails to let you know they are on their way home and to be looking for that. And that usually comes again towards the end of October that you will be getting those. And then the formal results do go on the school report card that last week in October as well for all districts across Illinois. So you'll be able to see all of the schools' results on there, but your individual student ones will come home in paper format to you, and you'll get an email from your principal saying, be on the lookout for those. They're on their way. Let's see, another one just came up. How many hours per day will third graders be required to take tests during the testing period? Usually the tests are in either 60-minute blocks, or some of the longer reading tests are in 90-minute blocks. And they usually have 1 or 2 of those per day. So they usually take an AM block or a PM block, or, one in the AM, one in the PM. And then they do movement breaks or some mini lessons of some other activities in between those bigger blocks of time. And so maximum they would have a block in the morning and a block in the afternoon on those testing days. So what they try to do as much as possible, especially for third grade, because it's their first go around and they don't have to take the science portion, is the first day they'll just do 1 block, and that might be in the morning. And then the afternoon, they kind of do regular, learning environment things. Then the next day, they might do, regular learning in the morning with a PM block. And then the third day, maybe do an AM and a PM block. There are, I think, 5 or 6 tests per content area. So it does take about 4 or 5 days of those larger blocks of tests to complete the entire test. Is there a schedule of the breakdown of ELA and math tests that can be shared in advance? Every school has a different schedule of exactly when they're going to do it, but Dr. Horn and I can recommend that maybe they post that in their school newsletters, just so that you kind of know when those testing blocks are. I think that's a great suggestion. We do have, how many tests there are per grade level, and then the recommended time. But the exact kind of schedule of when they're falling within those couple weeks period, we can recommend that the principals put that out in their newsletters. Those are the questions that have come through so far. Anything else? There might be one more coming through. I see the little talking bubbles. Just a thank you. All right. We will be sure to also post the recording of this. So if you want to go back and, look at any of the information in the slides, or go back and do the practice question, the questions that Dr. Horn went over, you can do those as well as a family. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to either of us, or your building principal or building assistant principals, for follow-up questions. And we are very excited to come back refreshed from spring break and ready to show what we know on our test this spring, and really, really celebrate our learning with it. So thank you guys very much, and we hope you fill out the feedback survey as well.
Yep, and if you didn't see that, it did post the link to the presentation in the chat box. Thank you all.
Have a good night.